Searching for a romantic summer getaway? Escape with Rich Girl Summer, the new Audible original from Lily Chu. The exquisitely talented Philippa Soo, returning to narrate her 5th Lily Chu title. This time, Philippa is joined by her real-life husband, Stephen Pasquale. Set in Toronto's wealthy cottage country, aka the Hamptons of Canada, Rich Girl Summer follows the story of Valerie, a down-on-her-luck event planner posing as a socialite's long-lost daughter, while piecing together the secrets surrounding a mysterious family and falling deeper and deeper in love with the impossibly hard-to-read and infuriatingly handsome family assistant, Nico. Caught between pretending to belong and unexpectedly finding where she truly fits in, Valerie learns her summer is about to get far more complicated than she ever planned. She's in over her head and head over heels. Listen to Rich Girl Summer now on Audible. Go to audible.com/richgirlsummer.
I'm Alice.
And I'm Brett.
And this is the Prosecutor's Legal Briefs. Welcome back to the Prosecutor's Legal Briefs. I'm your host, Alice, and I'm joined, as always, by my Hulu-tastic co-host, Brett.
That's not a word. I'll take it.
It is now.
It is now. Yeah. It's good to be back with you, Alice. I've missed you. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. I told Alice that earlier, and she was like, I just saw you a few days ago. And I was like, well, okay, never mind.
We just saw each other at the pool. So
Did we? Does that count? That's true, though. We did see each other.
How does it not count when we hang out in person?
It's not the same. I'm so awkward in person, you know?
You are awkward in person, number one.
Just
Number
like-
two, it's hard to have a conversation because our kids are really demanding. So this is true.
point.
We don't actually talk when we see each other in person. We run past each other as we catch a child that's diving off something that's going to impale them.
What really happens is I sort of wander over to talk to Alice, and like 15 people are talking to her, and I can't get a word in.
What are you
So like,
even
I'm
talking
like,
about?
I need to go to the VIP event.
You didn't mention
where
that the
you get
15 people
automatic.
who are talking to me are all under the age of 5. What can I say? The kids gravitate towards me. Okay, guys. Well, it's been a real ping pong of the number of people who are watching. I started singing and it dropped 10 people immediately. And then I brought up the fact that Brett was phenomenal on Hulu. I mean, I don't know how he sounded or the substance of what he said, but can we just all agree? The man looked like central casting of a prosecutor on a TV show.
Yeah, you know, it was that Quince sports coat I was wearing.
You did wear the Quince sports coat.
I sure
actually.
did.
You
Gotten
really
several
did.
compliments on that. So, you know,
Nobody complimented me on
prosecutors.
what I wore.
you didn't wear Quince. That's the problem.
That's a fair point.
Shoot, we can
Should
just
have worn
cut
Quince.
the ad now.
You're welcome, Quince. That's for 10% off. Actually, you don't get any percent
That was
off.
free.
Don't quote that.
So, anyway.
So we figure, because now we're so experienced, complete joke, guys. We are so naive about this entire process, and we recognize what a big deal it is that we quite literally stumbled into this part on a 3-part Hulu documentary about the Delphi murders. So we thought we'd give you a little bit peek behind the scenes of how unglamorous it was, at least for us, and how it all came to be. It came out on Hulu August 5th. So as we record it came out yesterday. You can watch it on Hulu, and we had a lot of fun shooting it. Brett, I mean, this was like, we did 2020 last year. That was my first time to do like a sit down interview for national TV, as opposed to like when we do commentary on the spot for court TV. That's a little less formal because we can do it from home. This, we have to like go somewhere. But as we learned from 2020, despite our faces appearing on national television or Hulu, nobody cares about makeup and hair for lawyers.
There's a couple things that are interesting about this, and you're talking about the behind the scenes. Number one, how it came to be. Well, before I get to that, just to talk about what Alice just said, I just assumed that when you do television, there would be a hair and makeup person. Like, I just assumed, like, somebody would, like, you know, do something, but there's nothing. And it's not like they don't, you know, give you, like, a full makeover. There's nothing. You just show up,
and
look
by
at how
nothing,
you look.
it's like after 5 hours of shooting, someone might mention, "Hey, you have a cowlick. Do you want to like put that down before we take your picture for, you know,
That's pretty
you to
much it,
remember?"
yeah.
And I was like, "Why didn't you tell me that 5 hours ago?"
Yeah, so it's nowhere near as glamorous as you would think. And the other thing So it came about so fast. This was one of those where we got like an email that said, I forget exactly what it said, but it was, well, hey, we're doing this documentary and we're doing some research. Do you mind talking to us? So we get on the phone with some assistant producer and they're just asking us questions about Delphi. And we're just explaining everything. They're asking us, is it weird that he was in a prison? And we're like, no, it's not weird at all. This is why it happened. They asked about all the various sort of misinformation you often hear. And we would just explain to them, like, no, actually, that's not a big deal. That the Franks motion was really weird and all this stuff. And we had this whole conversation with them. And then at the end, they're like, well, do you guys want to be on the show? And we were like,
what?
I don't know. And they were like, we need to film in like 2 days.
And real quick, we had no idea who we were talking to. We really say this when we tell you guys, we're like, if you invite us to teach your class, we'll teach your class. We don't even know who you are. Same with like we do a lot of background for journalists. Background meaning you're not on the record. You're just trying to educate people. That's our whole point, right? If you have a genuine question about the law, we'd love to help you because it's like our civic duty to, make sure people know what they're talking about when they're reporting on it. I thought this is what that was. Like They're making a documentary and all they have are like YouTubers out there who are not lawyers. And so they're asking us like legal questions like, well, what happens after a Franks motion? What is a Franks motion? What happens if they win on this? Why would you introduce this at trial? What's an appeal? Like very basic questions. I thought this was background as we've done for so many journalists on cases where we don't even appear in the article. We're just helping them understand the state of play. And so we didn't know, like, is this a big deal documentarian? Because the name on the like signature is nondescript, right? There's so many companies. It's basically like Services TV Corporation Inc. Right? Like it's totally whatever. And it could have been some weird dude wanting to shoot a documentary in his backyard. Like we didn't know. And they didn't tell us anything. That was the thing. When they said, do you want to shoot this documentary? They weren't like, hey, this is being produced for Hulu and there are some like real backers. There's an actual executive producer who's done this before. They were just like, do you want to show up somewhere? And we're like, yeah, we'll
Sure.
show up somewhere.
Well,
and both of our spouses were out of town for the next whole week. So both of us were like, it was not really possible for us to shoot, first of all. And we were like, do we make it happen?
Well, initially they were like, can you be in New York in 2 days? And we were like, no.
Like really couldn't because we were both solo parenting lots of babies.
Yeah. And so what they ended up doing was they came to us. Basically, there's this place
like 45 minutes away, an hour away. It's not if
little
we live in a small
town.
town, this is like a spigot of a town. Like it's even tinier than the small town we live in.
Yeah. So basically, they flew to Atlanta and they met us halfway, and they rented out a house, which was like a bed and breakfast
house, like a very old historic house,
which had terrible sound. I don't know if you could notice, but like you could barely hear me at times. The sound was terrible.
Do you know what I noticed?
There was trucks going by the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time. Do you know what I noticed? Why? Okay, so ladies, I feel like I'm not totally bearing my soul in the sense that Taylor Swift had lyrics about this. So I know that it must not just be me. When she sang about it, by the way, it put a light bulb in my head that other women do this. I didn't watch myself on the documentary. I watched the documentary, but when I was on TV, I looked down. So I actually don't know what I looked like on TV. I watched Brett. But
great.
If the two of us were on the screen, I did not look up. And this is not an exaggeration. I can't tell you like what I looked like. And the reason I realized, and I like had seen a still shot and I was like, that looks really weird. Remember they spent an hour at the beginning trying to get our height right? Because when we were sitting next to each other, Brett's more than a foot taller than me. And when we sit down, it's very noticeable that we are like not in the same frame. So I sat on pillows, everything. But I realized the reason I looked so weird is the angle is super weird for me because I was not at the right angle that you would shoot my face at because we had to fit both of our faces in the frame.
Yeah, it was weird. And I was just so uncomfortable. I mean, it was like...
It was uncomfortable.
My arm hurt for like the next week because basically you got to sit perfectly still in this, one little box. That's if you move from the box, they'll tell you got to like, sit up straight, get back in the box and all that stuff. So it's super uncomfortable. But yeah, we didn't know who these people were. All we knew the family was going to be in it. That's all we knew. We knew that some of the people from Abby and Livy's family be in it, which was good enough for me because I was like, well, if they're going to be in it, then happy to be on there supporting them. We get there, and we're going to talk about the contents of the documentary as well. We get there, the producer's in New York, so we're like talking to a television screen. basically.
Which
She's
is what
asking
we
us
did in
questions.
2020 as well. So that was not weird.
Well, there was one guy there.
There was one guy
like-
there,
yeah,
but we were technically speaking to like a
That's true.
screen.
So we get there. Sounds terrible. I don't know if y'all have watched it. If you put all our clips together over the 3 episodes, 5 minutes?
I was going to say 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, 5 minutes probably of us talking. Maybe. We filmed for hours.
6.5 hours. I think we were supposed to shoot for 5 hours and they asked us to stay longer.
Yes. Yeah, they were like, can you stay? Because, yeah, we were supposed to only stay until like 2 or something. We ended up staying until like 5. And they just, because they had so many questions and we were doing it. And you know how we are. We can't.
We're
be
a
short-winded.
little bit loquacious.
Which probably is a bad thing because, you know, especially with TV, because they're always going to edit it down. So the more you say, the more you're giving them. And I thought everything they presented with us was perfectly legitimate. You know, there was a lot of stuff I wish they'd put in there, but that's fine. We can talk about that in a minute. But it is really interesting to see how they take those hours and hours of conversations and answers and get them into sort of this format they want.
Yeah, no, we are the way we speak is not in sound bites, which I think is actually our strength, but it makes for wonderful podcasting, terrible TV, but they still used us, which I appreciated. I will say, so this was the speed in which this happened was immense. So I do know that we came in at the very end. My theory is they finished the documentary and then the producers watched the first cut essentially and were like, you have no balance on the prosecution. This is totally my theory. I have no insight. But I think that's why they called literally, I think an intern probably Googled prosecutor viewpoint of Delphi. And our podcast probably showed up and they
This podcast is
listened
called The
to
Prosecutors.
it. Literally called The Prosecutors. They did 1 million episodes on Delphi. Intern found, you know, these podcasters and then we didn't seem too crazy. And I really think that's what happened because when we were interviewing, we did this in May. It's August. My perception of TV is it takes like a year to get things out, right? And so we were interviewing in May, and as we were talking to them, you know, they were like, we're pretty much done. Because this is how we found out it was for Hulu, guys. We're sitting there in a dark, what looks like a haunted historic building built in like the 1800s. There's trucks going on outside because it's built in 1800, meaning there's like no soundproofing doors or windows. And we're sitting there literally in the dark because it has to be dark with just like a spotlight on you. And we're sitting in probably 200-year-old cane chairs looking at each other in weird angles because I'm a foot shorter than Brett. And it's just the sound guy walking around checking the sounds everywhere around the room because the person who's interviewing us has not shown up. And I just kind of like say, so like, what is this for? And the sound guy was like, what do you mean? And I was like,
we don't know anything.
yeah. And I was like, is it for TV? Is it for someone's weird video collection? And he kind of, you know, he's like, oh, no one's told you? And I was like, nope. And he goes, this is a 3-part documentary on Hulu. And Brett and I looked at each other, we're like, whoa, no idea.
Yeah,
and then when we were
awesome.
shooting, we were kind of like, when is this going to come out? Mind you, this is mid-May. And they said, oh, the goal is August. And I was like, whoa, I thought this was going to be May of 2026. So that was our viewpoint. I don't know if that always happens, but I think we're an afterthought. But I'm really glad they thought of us. And I'm glad we made it in because up until we watched the documentary yesterday, I didn't know if we were on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, we had no idea. They didn't send us like a preview
Pre-screener,
copy.
nothing.
They called us a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Maybe 10 days ago. I don't know. They just called us and said, hey, documentary's coming out first week August. And I didn't even, Alice was like, so are we in it?
I did ask them that.
And they're like, oh, yeah, you're in it. And I was like, oh, okay, great. But,
they were very nice to us.
Very
but
nice.
We really didn't know anything. So anyways, that was like the actual experience of sitting there. But it was really intense. We sat and were peppered. I was so exhausted afterwards because it felt like an interrogation. You have to stare straight ahead, at the camera, and there's a literal spotlight on you. And it was question after question after question after question about the entire procedure of the case and the facts of the case, which is, a lot of recall. But we didn't eat. We barely drank. We barely went to the bathroom. We took like one break. I remember one break
No
where everyone
food.
was like, we've been going for about 5 hours.
Yeah.
Let's go
They
to
had
the
like
bathroom.
oranges. You could eat an orange. Like those little like cuties or whatever.
Yes.
So, it was intense. Alice is right. And the questioning, it's so funny because, the producer they do it like you're having a conversation. So sometimes somebody'd be like, so you asking that because you don't know, or is this for the show? And they're like, oh, it's for the show. I'm like, oh, okay. Because it's so conversational. I don't know. It's always an interesting experience. And you feel so awkward.
Someone asked if they paid us. No, we did this for free, y'all.
Crazy.
I actually asked Brett this. I was like, I wonder if we didn't ask to be paid either, because again, we literally showed up to abandoned house thinking, maybe we get murdered. No, we didn't get paid at all for it. I guess we get the honor of being part of the documentary. I can't speak for anyone else in the documentary. I have no idea if anyone else got paid, but we certainly didn't. We literally just showed up as us, and we even gave them the rights to use sound recording from our podcast, for example. And you guys, it's not just about us. Hannah Hill's artwork is also featured on it, which is huge props to her. We've known from day one that Hannah is one of the most talented artists. If you guys don't know who we're talking about, she does all of the pictures associated with our episodes. And the documentarians must have been listening to our podcast because they specifically reached out about the artwork that she had done for the Delphi case and asked us if we could be in contact with Hannah to use her artwork. So Hannah is like blowing up, guys. Go get your Hannah Hill artwork now before it is completely out of your budget.
Yeah, absolutely. She's the best. And it's so beautiful. It's just so like that piece of art. I mean, so many of the things she's done are great. But the one from Delphi, there's just something, because it's all about the girls and their friendship, and it's just so wonderful. I love it as a piece of artwork and capturing sort of that. And I'll say this, just to transition to the documentary itself. This case has always been very personal to us and emotional, frankly. I don't claim to be perfectly objective when it comes to this case because it just affects me in a way a lot of our cases don't. The first episode, we're not even in the first episode. The first episode starts with the family and friends and like pictures of the girls when they're babies and videos of them. And it's just devastating. I mean, it crushed me. And I'll tell you, the thing that got me that I never would have expected, but it just got me in this deep way was, these 3 20-year-olds pop up on the screen and they're talking about the case. And I'm like, who are these people? I don't know who these people are. And they were their friends from 2017. Girls who were 12, 13, 14. And now they're young women. They're adults. They're college graduates. They're out in the world. And that should have been the girls. They're forever 13, 14 years old for us. They're forever children for us, but they shouldn't have been. They should have grown up and gone on to other things. And there was just something about that. And I don't know why, but it just hit me so hard seeing those other girls who had been their friends all grown up.
And along those lines, because the friends had videos of all of them together, because Abby and Libby were not little kids, they weren't like 5 or 6, they were teenagers. You already saw who they were going to be when they were grown up. And so in those videos, their friends were in the videos. And you could see like, oh, that's just you a little bit older. Like it was the same person, just slightly older. And so that broke my heart because in their friends, I could see Abby and Libby, what they would have been today, right? It wasn't even like that big of a stretch because they were already teenagers. They were coming into their own already. They were these well-formed, brave, confident young women. I mean, literally, right? Libby, in like the scariest moment of her life, pulls out a phone and helps get evidence that solves her case. That is immense thinking on your feet at that moment when a lot of people would completely blank, right? And so that was devastating to me because we saw all these like home funny videos with friends that we hadn't really seen before. But in those glimpses, I could see what they would be like as 20-year-olds. It wasn't hard to imagine. And to think we don't get the benefit of that was a guttural punch. And the other thing, I mean, again, both of us are watching this the night before we send our kids to school, for a new school year, and really feeling the fleetingness of childhood was their family, all of their family, the rawness. This is not something you ever get closure in. We've talked about this. This is not ever something you get over. You don't get over being robbed of a life that is unnatural. It is not as it should be in this world. So it is not something you can get over. It is not a wound that can ever heal. And you could see it so viscerally because in some ways we're talking about, something that happened years ago. But here you hear their family members talk about them in the present tense because they are so present to them, and their voice is cracking because there's no, you can't possibly talk about it without feeling the immense weight of the loss that has been robbed from you. And that, I mean, I've heard them all speak and I've seen them cry. But seeing it yet again, all these years later, where you really realize what Richard Allen did, you know, what he robbed the world of and what he robbed all these individuals who are appearing, their friends and the entire community of Delphi, was devastating to see. And so I'm glad they spent the first episode really showing us the town, because Delphi, man, what a quintessential perfect small town with what, 2 stoplights, you know, had 1 stoplight and then 20 years later had 2 stoplights. I mean, this is the place that we all dream of raising our kids. And the reason it really just shakes you to your core is if it can happen here, quite literally it can happen anywhere.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way.
Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
I watched the documentary, watched all 3 pieces. I've seen a lot of criticism of it, and I understand that. But I thought they did a pretty good job of sort of telling the whole story, all sides of the story, including the defense side. A lot of people think it's very defense heavy. Obviously, the defense attorneys were involved. Kathy Allen, Delphi resident, is involved, which is like the weirdest. If you've seen it, the first episode, you know, Kathy Allen's on all 3, Richard Allen's wife. But when you first see her, they just describe her as Delphi resident. And it's like, oh yeah, that's weird, you know? But I mean, I get why they're doing it. They're not, this is not directed at us, right? It's not directed at people who know everything there is to know about this case. But I thought I would have liked to have seen more focus on the prosecution's evidence. I'd like to see more of us, for instance. But I actually thought they did a pretty good job of sort of, look, these are the alternative theories. There's Ron Logan, there's Kagan Klein, there's Odinism, which we can talk about that in a second. Here's the defense attorneys talking about it. Here's Kathy Allen talking about her husband, how much she loves him. Here's the family. Here's one of the police officers who was there. They used a lot of available footage of people who weren't on the show. So you had Nick McClelland interviews, you had Jerry Holman interviews where they're talking about various things. I mean, I think people need to remember, and it's important to remember, these things, television in particular, it is entertainment, and they are going to indulge some of that more conspiratorial stuff. They just are, because it's what sells stuff. It puts, you know, people in the seats. But what I'll say about it, and people feel free to correct me on this or point to things where they did this, I didn't notice anywhere where they were egregiously twisting the facts. So they might have left things out. That certainly they left things out. But I always go back to Making a Murderer and doing things like having one question and an answer to a different question and putting them together. That kind of stuff is so misleading. I didn't see that they did that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, they were trying to tell a story and make it dramatic, especially in the 3rd episode. But I will say, to their credit, in not kind of twisting what there was, emphasizing different parts of the story. And look, there's a reason this story has completely gripped the world, right? I mean, we all want it to be unexplainable that a monster can murder 2 girls out on a walk on a public trail in broad daylight. We would prefer it to be a conspiracy theory. I agree. We've had this conversation before. I would love it to be the most egregious, unbelievable story of why that happens, because then it tells me the world is okay and this was an aberration. This is not the norm. The reality is much more boring, and predators are among us, especially child predators and murderers, and I don't want to know that, and I don't want to believe it. But the reason we want it to be a conspiracy is because our brains cannot quite fathom that this is more normal than we'd like to believe. But with that said, I think if you knew the case and you watched the 3rd episode, to me, the Odinism theory came off laughable. Now, obviously, they were trying to tell the story like, well, could it be? But because they didn't do kind of the making a murder type of, I think, bordering on unethical, leaving out of evidence and twisting the evidence where you didn't get the whole story, I think if you looked at it with open eyes and had an ability to think for yourself and wasn't just drawn into like suspending belief and going along with the story, I didn't buy it. I mean, I like kind of laughed a little bit. Now, I've had many friends who don't know much about the Delphi murders and they watched it. And at the end, they're like, whoa, seems like there's a lot of doubt here. I'm like, there wasn't. And as soon as I explain it, they saw it, right? But I can see how powerful storytelling is. So, I mean, I'm interested what people thought when they saw the whole thing. But I do think they were trying to present all of the evidence. Maybe consumers are not used to just being told all the evidence and deciding for themselves. They're used to being told a story that people will naturally just think, oh, if you're telling me about Odinism, that's what it is. I don't know. But I didn't think it was a very believable theory in the way they presented it. And they were actually trying to sell the theory.
And look, I think you have to remember true crime consumers out there. I think there's a wide range of people, right? I mean, there are people who will believe anything. You know, I don't even think they really take it that seriously. This is fun to them. It's entertainment to them. They love the conspiracies. They dive into those. They'll believe anything. And frankly, as long as they're doing that from their couch, watching on television or talking on Reddit, who cares? I don't like them to be on juries, but whatever. I get it. Then I think then there are people who think everybody's guilty and, would never buy any of this, and that's fine too. But I think there's a lot of people in the middle who are very interested in the truth, and they're capable of sort of weighing things and thinking things through. One thing that was disappointing in this case, though I think probably was a good thing, particularly given our experience in the Karen Reed case, was the case wasn't televised, so you didn't get to see this evidence presented, and you didn't really get to judge it. I was so glad that Dawn Perlmutter was in that documentary, because you got to hear how stupid the Odinism theory is and how she's their expert and she's completely in left. Just listening to her was like, you would have been sitting next to what's his name in West Memphis 3, if this were 30 years ago. You're a relic from the past.
Agreed. I'm really glad that you got to hear her yourself. And I'm also glad, we won't talk too much about Richard Allen's wife who appears in this. Everyone gets their piece in this, that she gets to talk. But I thought this is where I don't think there was intentional twisting of the facts, and I'll show you why. But I think if you're not an observant watcher, you will be twisted. So a way to twist the facts would be the police had nothing to tie him to the bridge guy. Okay? That's twisting the facts. Another way to do it, which I think the documentary did it, and they wanted to get you to the point of saying there's nothing to tie him, is this was like a sequence of events. Again, wanted to, but they didn't go so far as to twist the facts. They said, Richard Allen, he told his wife that he was there on the bridge. He told the officer he was there on the bridge. And then we see the footage of him being questioned. And he says, yeah, I wore the exact clothes that a bridge guy wore. But of course, I'm not the one in that picture. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Hello, what does that say? His own words put him on the bridge. At the time, he tells simultaneously to his wife. His wife's like, you should tell the police. He goes and tells the police this. Now, when they didn't follow up, that's a different thing. And then it follows up with his wife saying, see, there's nothing that puts him as bridge guy. And I was like, he literally just identified himself as bridge guy. That's a different interpretation. I can understand why you're going there. But I think if you're even a half intelligent viewer, you see that and you're like, well, then how do you explain all that away? And at least the documentary puts those facts out there for the viewer to hopefully use their own brain and say, no, there's a lot of connections right there. The documentary doesn't make the connection for you. Now, we certainly did, but they cut that part out.
Yeah, we sure did.
We certainly did.
I'll say this. Documentarians are tricky because watching it, I actually came away with the documentarians wanted you to believe he's guilty while presenting this sort of salacious story. I'll give you a couple examples. Number one, and this is a choice they made. Kathy Allen is talking about how Ricky, and he's this perfect guy, he'd never harm a fly. And the documentary is showing you all these photos where he looks like a complete psychopath. They just keep doing it. They just keep putting these photos. She's like, he had the most beautiful eyes. And they drop a photo with him with these dead, serial
crazy
killer
eyes with huge pupils.
I know. And they kept doing that. And I was like, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just reading into this, but I feel like they're sending us a signal here.
That's fair, because anyone who's been married for 20 plus years. I forget how long they've been together, but very long time. I love my husband. I think the world of him. But to say that he's never done any wrong in his life, I can't say that with a straight face, right? Like, we've fought before, and like, he's not a perfect person. But when she was like, unabashedly, everything is perfect about him, you've never met such an innocent angel, I was like, I mean, to be believable, you have to be believable. That's not believable about anybody. Even if you really think he's innocent, you can be innocent, but you're actually more believable if you speak about him in a way that lends itself to belief, especially when there's a lot of evidence in this case.
And there was another moment towards the end of episode 3 where I think they were kind of laying it out, and it's us and Tom Webster, and they're like interspersing things he's saying with things we're saying. And I thought that was the most like, we're going to make the case now here part, and sort of that end part was interesting to me. Now, there were certainly things they left out, like Kathy Allen gets away with saying, well, he told me he was there that day. Yeah, but he lied to you about being on the bridge. Didn't mention that. You forgot to mention that he specifically told you he wasn't on the bridge that day, and that you confronted him about that when you were in that room with him in the police station. Left that out, right? An important part that she left out. And look, I try to give her grace because she's in a difficult place. In many ways, she's also a victim. I know that's not a popular thing to say because, frankly, by the end, it just grates on you. It's just sort of, at first, you're like, okay, I'm going to try, and she's the victim. But all the Ricky stuff, and he's so amazing, he's so wonderful, and the crying, which I don't want to say some of it was fake, but some of it struck me as fake. Some of the crying, I didn't think it was real. You know, I mean, that's just how I took it. I could be wrong, but it's interesting to watch her. And I think she's their big hook. That was really having her and having her talk. There's a reason that she's in it from the very beginning all the way to the end. Another thing I thought was interesting, and it was interesting to see the sort of use of all these different YouTubers and that approach. I would be fascinated, frankly, by just a documentary on the creator side.
That's the angle I really would have loved to see.
That would have been interesting.
Maybe one episode just on all that happened. I mean, there were indictments that came out of this case that had to do with like witness tampering and people accusing, even if you didn't go to the trial. Remember before we had an arrest, all of the online frenzy with the armchair detectives and everyone doing side by side. I mean, there's so much to be said about like a indictment really on true crime armchair detectives slash
and there was a
interest.
There was a documentary like that about Idaho.
Yeah,
like they did one about the Idaho murders, and I think one about Delphi would be really interesting too.
Yes. No, I totally agree. But obviously, I think they were told they only had 3 episodes. You have to choose how to allot your time, and so the way they broke it out, you know, was there's so much in this case. You could obviously do more than 3 episodes.
So a couple things I thought were interesting about the defense attorneys, as we told you, because we knew this was true, the defense attorneys were filming the whole time.
Yep.
The whole time they were doing this, they were filming, they were getting ready for a documentary.
Like on their phones. Those of you who haven't seen it, like there's literally, they filmed themselves pressing send on filing the Frank's
it was
motion.
so ridiculous. This is for Richard Allen. It's like, oh, screw you two.
Yeah.
You
It was,
jackasses.
yeah.
But I'll tell you what was interesting. So, they talk about that whole filing. And then Brad Rosie has like a moment of clarity where at the end he's like, probably in the end, that wasn't the best way to convince a judge to go along with us. It's like, you think?
But he also did say, this is completely within the realm of regular advocacy.
Oh, yeah. He's
and by
totally
the way,
trying to
we
cover
said
himself.
the absolute opposite, and our part got cut out.
Yeah.
Those of you who don't know what we're talking about, that is
kept
not a Frank's
hoping.
motion. You can listen to our legal briefs episode about it. It's absolutely not within the realm of a Frank's motion, but that's neither here nor there.
I was like, I know it's boring, but just have us talking about the Frank's motion. But it was funny when he said that.
They did ask
I
us
was
like an hour worth of questions about the Frank's motion. You know what, though? I'd like to think, even though what we talked about with the Frank's motion wasn't in the episode, the person interviewing us had the ultimate editing calls on what was in it. And I'd like to think by talking to her about the Frank's motion so extensively, we were able to get her to keep out most of the crazy of what the defense was saying about the Frank's motion. That's what
I would like to think
we
that
did.
too.
So
Yeah.
even though you don't get to see what we did, I think that us talking about it for an hour with her on camera, even though it was not in the documentary, ultimately she was like, I can't put this in with a straight face.
Yeah, no, and I hope that's true. I mean, I hope that we had some effect on those things. One thing that was interesting, the whole sort of experience is a strange one, but you're talking about all these different things and you're trying to make all these points and you're trying to be, you're trying to say newsy things, right? Like you're trying to say things they can use as clips because those are the kind of things that are going to get in eventually. I thought it was interesting, the part about the defense attorneys and during the deliberations and what they were thinking. I was intrigued by that. You know how I feel about the defense attorneys. I don't feel like I have to get into that. But especially, like I said, towards the end, when there were a couple tiny mea culpas, I had a little bit more respect for them by the end than maybe I did before. I'll say this. The person who I thought came off really well and is sort of a interesting insight into when you should do these things, because there's an argument, and we've talked about this before, there's an argument that like, just let the case die. Like, don't participate in this. Don't take part in it. Don't do any of it. There's no point. It's no good. I can imagine taking that position. And if you took that position, that's fine. I think that's one you could take. Patrick Westphal, who was one of that's his name, Westphal.
Yep.
One of the Odinist, who was named. He did an interview, and he came off great.
I thought he came off great. I felt so much sympathy for him because he's become this lore, like this terrible, evil Odinist. And you hear him talk, he's just like a regular guy whose life has been turned upside down because these attorneys decided to name him, and he's not an indicted co-conspirator or charged with anything, but his name is splashed all over probably, one of the most read filings of any court case. And he just came off like a regular next door neighbor.
Yeah. Just talked about, honestly, I hate to compare the two, but it kind of felt like sort of West Memphis 3 and sort of the descriptions of like Wicca, and you have everybody who thinks, oh, Wicca, Satanism, right? And people trying to describe like, no, it's not that at all. It's this and this and that. He did the same thing. He's like, yeah, I was in this thing, and they're trying to say that we did this, and it's some really bizarre ritual. And in fact, it's just like, we're just hanging out in the woods and enjoying nature and all this stuff. No, I thought he came off great. And he was one of the reasons that I feel like if you watched it, they presented the Odinist stuff, and the people who bought the Odinism thing come off as lunatics. And even the defense attorneys, you could tell they're trying to kind of now distance themselves from it. Once again, Brad Rosie was like, look, I don't know about the whole Odinism thing, but the police should have looked into it more, was basically what he said. It's like, okay, fine. I mean, that's far more reasonable than the girls were murdered as part of a satanic ritual, which you wrote in the first sentence of your filing. It was interesting to me just to see the defense attorneys kind of attempt to pull some of this back while still presenting themselves as the great defenders of truth, justice, and the American way. Because they've got to walk that tightrope.
I was like, because it didn't go well for them. Like, if it went the other way, that somehow they were, like in the Karen Reed case, they would be touting everything about Odinism. So they're smart in that they have to have a future. They're still lawyers, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe now they're going to be great movie stars. But like, that was the interesting thing. They do have to walk a tight line because now they have to still be taken seriously in the legal realm.
And one thing they did that I thought was interesting, which obviously my cynical mind was thinking they did this just to make themselves look better. When they've got the GoPro or whatever it is, filming themselves, waiting for the verdict, and then the verdict comes in. And I think it's Rosie. He's like, okay, listen, when they read the verdict, we are going to be completely whatever. It's the family first, they come first, and then we'll worry about sort of whatever we're doing. And it was very obvious that, cynical me thought, oh yeah, you're doing this to set up later on. So you can be like, see, we always cared most about the family. But it was interesting to hear him sort of having that discussion with the rest of his legal team, waiting for the verdict to come in.
I don't know. I hope that I assume they did have the consent of both Kathy and Richard Allen.
Oh, for the last part?
Because that was just like, that's an incredibly personal moment that I know I wouldn't want to be captured on video. And nor did I think it was appropriate. I would never have my camera rolling during a verdict. But
yeah, basically after the verdict, they record them talking to
the
Kathy.
Sobbing, not just talking, but like sobbing of the very real visceral responses that any human would have in that situation. And I don't know. It's great for documentaries to have that footage, but I can't imagine a world in which I would turn on a camera during a verdict coming back.
But you have to remember, they also are very thoughtful about what's going to help them. And having that moment recorded is the kind of thing that will affect some people. Some people will hear that and they'll be like, that's so real. He must be innocent. Only an innocent person and his innocent wife who believes in his innocent would react that way, right? So I don't know. I think a lot of it was planned, personally. And I think they probably did have their permission. But it felt very, to me, exploitative, you know?
Very, yeah.
Like, even if it had a reason to do it, I would not have done it.
I would never have shared it, you know? Like, even if I had it, I'd be like, this is not for me. This is not to be shared. Certainly not to a documentary. But that's why it'll make, documentaries, because I would have a super boring documentary where I'd probably read the encyclopedia.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of people have said, I wish they would have put more of the prosecution theory. I mean, they could have chosen to go that way, but that wasn't what they were doing. They were trying to present this sort of every side of the case thing. And it's always going to lean a little defense. But frankly, of the documentaries I've seen, I thought this one was pretty balanced. And I was worried about it.
Yeah. We were both very worried about it.
Yeah. I mean, they could have made us look like idiots if they'd wanted to. I mean, you could chop it up.
I was actually worried about that, because I knew that it was probably going to be, I mean, the interesting story that we knew they were going to tell was the Odinism Theory. And so I was afraid they were going to make us look like heartless prosecutors who didn't care at all. And just as long as we nail the guy, whether he did it or not, that's all that matters. I thought that's what they were going to try to make us do.
Well, it was so funny because when they started talking about the Odinism Theory, we were like,
it was like hour 5 of us being there. We were already very tired. We hadn't eaten.
They should have shown that. So what do you think about Odinism? And we're just like,
that.
Yeah.
Maybe if we talked more about Odinism, well, we would have been in all 3 episodes.
There you go. There you go.
Anyways, I will say this. We've said this before, but we're hoping to lift the curtain a little bit. Never in my wildest dreams did I think we'd have a podcast 5 years going strong, that we'd ever do a documentary on Hulu and all these things. So this is all because you guys, I don't know, you guys have built this community that has allowed us to keep podcasting. And because we get to talk about cases we care about, we care a lot about this case. And because we were able to do all these episodes about it, some intern who probably just Googled prosecutors in Delphi found us, and we were able to do this documentary solely because you guys have given us a platform to podcast about cases we care about. They certainly didn't come to us because we're lawyers in our day job, right? It's secondary. Great. I'm glad you're also a lawyer. So this is y'all's success. Thank you for giving us the ability to be able to talk about these cases and to be a voice of reason, because otherwise, I mean, there might just be conspiracy theorists out there all the time. But you guys, with your clicks and listens, have shown that boring cold water prosecutor theories and really just following the evidence as opposed to the shiniest story has a market. And it's, I'd like to hope, forcing better true crime out there in terms of entertainment.
And I do want to say, this was a point I wanted to make as well. First of all, we've said this before to you guys, but it is entirely true. So thankful for what you allow us to do. Y'all have given us so much listening to this podcast. We talk for hours on end. We're probably boring at times, but you guys have stuck with us and we really appreciate it. And I think one thing about this is, we've said this before, but it's easy, I think, to sort of build a platform if you do a lot of the conspiracy stuff, if you really indulge in that, because it's popular. It's kind of like candy, right? Everybody loves candy, but it's not good for you, right? So you can do that, and that's fine if that's the kind of show you want to do. But you don't have to. You can do a very different type of show and still get these opportunities. And frankly, like Alice said, probably the only reason we were on there is because we were one of the few people out there saying the opposite of what they already had. They had plenty of people saying, oh, it was the Odinist, or oh, it was Ron Logan, or oh, it was Kagan Klein. They had plenty of people willing to say that, but there just weren't that many people willing to present the other side. And some intern found us, and there we were. So just if you're out there trying to decide you want to do something like this, just know you don't have to sell candy to make it. You can present what you think the truth is and do it with passion and still be successful. So Anyway.
Oh, Brett. And I'm glad we get to do this together. I will say,
great.
it's way more fun to get to do stuff like this together because we couldn't talk about this documentary, for it's really not been that long, since May. And so we get to talk about it with each other, which is really fun. And now all of you. So you can watch the Hulu documentary Capturing Their Killer, The Girls on the High Bridge. Is that what it's called? The Girls on the High Bridge. Delphi is actually not in the name, but if you search Delphi, it'd probably come up. And it's available now. We watched all 3 episodes yesterday. It's very binge worthy. And thank you for letting us be a part of it and be a part of your listening ears, because I am so glad if we are to be in a documentary, it is about this case. This is one of the first cases we covered well before there was even a real suspect, on the horizon. And to have seen this case through the life of it has been incredibly meaningful, I think, to both of us.
Yeah. And so the last thing I want to say is completely unrelated to this. And that's, if you're going to CrimeCon, you can vote for Creator of the Year. We are not on the ballot.
We're not on it.
I would like to say it's because we told them we've been on it enough. So feel free to leave us off so other people can have the opportunity.
May have just been an administrative error, but it's okay.
Might have been, but that's fine. It's cool.
Okay. Don't get mad at anybody. Because,
no, it's
because
fine. I still have mine.
I was about
right
to
over my
say,
shoulder, so
now
no big
what
deal.
we're going to do is we're going to do a heist at CrimeCon. So Brett, I have a challenge for you. You have to bring the award to CrimeCon, and all of you will show what team you're actually on. You will show me you're actually on Team Alice if you're able to steal the award from Brett and give it to me at CrimeCon. Just saying. So we can make this the administrative error. Fine. I actually think it's great. I have so many podcasts I'd love to vote for, but what I want you guys to do for me is the ultimate heist at CrimeCon.
And see, I, not being as selfish as Alice, wanted to use this as an opportunity to tell you to support some of those other podcasts. And I would point out the Consult is on it. Julia Cowley will be at CrimeCon for the first time, which means she is eligible for the award. She's on there. Cheryl McCollum, Zone 7, is on it. We're big fans. We've been on her show. Murder Sheet, we've been on their show multiple times. They're going to be on our show in about a week talking about their new book. They're on it. Big Mad True Crime is not on it. I don't know they also...
I wonder if Heather also fell into our same administrative bucket, shall we say?
Could have been.
Because I would totally vote for her.
She's awesome.
Yes.
Crime Weekly, we're good friends with those guys.
Absolutely.
They're on it. So those are some great choices. I don't know if Body Bags is on it or not. That's what I meant to check. Who we also love.
I wonder if there was maybe an administrative hole that multiple of us fell in, which is totally fine. But it doesn't mean anything about the ones who are left off. So if Big Mad True Crime is not on there, it's only because we love them too much.
Exactly. Love them too much.
Love them too much. But we're still going to be there. We're going to be there to meet up with you guys. If you can't afford a ticket to go to CrimeCon, come hang out in the lobby. We'll come see you, man. Doesn't matter. We are here for you. We are so excited to see you.
People are always like, is there going to be a meetup? We'll be at the bar. Oh, no.
We are always meeting up. That's all we do.
It's a constant meetup. But we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be here before you know it. We have a panel we're doing with Leo Schofield and...
We should prepare. Gilbert.
What's his name? Gilbert. Yeah.
Gilbert. We love Gilbert.
Names.
I don't know if his podcast is on there. I don't know if he's doing a Creators Row, so he might not be doing a Creators Row.
He may not. But if he has, Bone Valley is awesome.
Bone Valley's phenomenal.
So come check us out.
We should probably prep for that.
We should. We should.
That's a problem for next month.
Exactly. Leo is actually driving.
Yes, because
from Florida to Colorado.
That's a long way. But also remember, he recently had a horrible accident, and I'm so glad that he's well enough to come.
And that's what I said. I said he can drive, but he cannot ride a motorcycle. Okay. Well, I hope you guys will join us there. And if you are, come by and say hello. We'll be hanging out all the time.
Indeed. Well, but it's not even a whole hour, and you want to do a question? Even though this whole thing has been kind of a question.
Sure. Why not?
Why not?
Oh, you guys excited for the last episode of West Memphis 3?
Oh my gosh, I'm not ready.
You're not ready?
I'm really not ready.
I'm ready.
I'm tired.
Ready.
You're ready?
I got I figured it all out. I'm ready to go.
Are you being facetious?
No, I've got my whole thing I'm going to say. Ready. I'm ready.
You can do the episode by yourself because I'm not ready.
No, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. See, people don't believe us when we say that we don't know what the other one's going to say.
We really don't know what the other one's going to say. I need to.
And I'll say this. Of all the cases we've done, this one I know the least. Like, I was blown away by Alice's closing in the Adnan Syed case. But I knew she was going to say he was guilty. Like, there was no question about that. In this one, she can say anything. I don't know what she's going to say.
It's not going to be an Adnan style closing on this one. It just doesn't matter which way I come out. It's not going to be Adnan style, just so you guys know.
This one is appropriate for lately, almost so much so I'm scared to ask it. But I'll ask it anyway because it was asked. This is from Cameron Rose. And they want to know, what is your advice for how we should react when people in online groups dogpile us? I don't know why you care. Like, it's always sort of my thing. I mean, are they your friends and family who are dogpiling you? Like, are you going on Reddit?
Wait, dogpiling who? Us or them?
No, them.
As they're like...
So presumably they're like going in some Facebook group and talking about how great we are, and then like 37 people are like, they're terrible, awful. How could you support them? That kind of thing. I think that is what they're saying. And look, I really appreciate people who defend us online. You know, I mean, I always appreciate that when somebody's like, actually, no, they're really great. I love their show. But, you know, I think
you can take solace in this. I think you can take solace in this. It's okay. Our value and our self-worth is actually not based in what people we've never met have said. For better or worse, it gives us a little bit of a, we get to do our podcast however we like. So while we are so appreciative of you standing up for us, my heart also hurts if you're feeling sad for having to defend us. So like, I don't care if you bow out. Like, I don't think you're a coward. Just don't take blows from me. It's okay.
And here's the thing. It's one thing if somebody says, hey, what's a podcast you recommend? And you guys say The Prosecutors. I really appreciate that. I just got to tell you, no one on Reddit or Twitter or Facebook, if they hate us, is going to have their minds changed because you went to bat for us. So while I appreciate you going to bat for us, just know you don't have to do that. Like Al said, don't feel like you're letting us down by not defending us from the slander that's being directed our way. It's fine.
In fact, maybe chuckle a little to yourself. That we don't care, oh, we really don't care.
Like there's one guy on Twitter who every post I make, he makes a comment. Now, I don't know what they say because I have him muted. So literally he's just, as Joe said, he's just screaming into the void. And like people will send me screenshots where he says something and I don't respond. And then he's like, I see by your non-response, you don't have anything to say. And it's like, dude, I'm not reading anything.
I was going to say, I have a non-response because I don't even know you exist.
I don't care. Right. And so remember, these people get all of their worth and value out of getting you to engage with them. That's where they get their value. So just ignore them. It doesn't matter to me. Somebody attacks us on Reddit, don't care. If someone asks, what's a good podcast? Feel free to name us. And if someone then goes after you, ignore them. Right? That would be sort of my thought. Tell your friends. It's just... Your friends are the only ones who probably care about your opinion anyway. So if your friends are looking for true crime podcasts, let them know. But other than that, don't feel like you have to defend us. Not at all. So that's my advice.
I agree. I totally agree. I like to not feed the flame.
I guess I'll just say to the other people out there, like, give it a rest. Like, why are you going after people? Like, let people live their lives. You know, if people want to like us, let them like us. If people want to listen to Bob Ruff, let them listen to Bob Ruff. But who cares, right? If it brings them joy, it's fine. Like, you don't have to fight this
Let them
battle.
Marie Kondo their podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Does it give you joy? If it does, keep it on your Apple playlist. If it doesn't, don't. It is not going to change your life. It probably isn't going to determine whether you go to heaven or hell, depending on what podcast you listen to. So just chill out some. Enjoy life. Life is stressful enough without letting a bunch of podcasts get you down.
Totally agree with that. Again, like we keep going back to this, but I think this puts things into perspective. When we do cases like Delphi, when we do cases like West Memphis 3, it really focuses the mind because I'm like, when you boil it down, like there's so few things in life that matter. And when you waste your time on all the other things, you are truly wasting your time because time is not infinite. Time is finite, no matter how many days on earth you have, and choose to spend it on things that actually matter. And engaging with Redditors who want to hate the the prosecutors, please find something better to do, like cross stitch. I don't even care what it is.
Seriously.
Like something way better than that. And just know that it doesn't bother us. Actually, someone, was screenshotting some really nice things someone said about me online.
Well, they usually talk about how great you are.
They usually
hate me.
Most of it's actually really ugly about me, which is why I don't read it. And my friend like took a screenshot. I was like, oh, this is so true. And I literally was like, I don't even know what forum that is. I don't know if it's Reddit. I don't know if it's LinkedIn. I don't know if it's Facebook. I have no concept of where you're screenshotting this from. And my friend was like, really? And I was like, I don't read anything, good or bad, because obviously it feels nice to read something nice about yourself. But that's almost as empty in some ways as the negative, because if something can make me feel so happy, that means the other words that are negative can make me feel just as bad. And I can't put my self-worth in like these words, you know? People can love you one moment and hate you the next. And if our salvation were in that, then, you know, we'd all be doomed.
I mean, I'm wearing my Duck Kazoo 1-star shirt right now. Like, I mean, and we've said this before, and I think people don't believe it. They think it's like coping or something. I enjoy the 1-star reviews. I think they're funny. I really do. I mean, it doesn't bother me.
I'll say this. I don't think it's funny. It does hurt my feelings. But because of that, I don't engage at all. And that's how I deal with it, which I think is totally fine. Because if those of you who have feelings, who are like, I don't like it when someone says something bad about me, I totally agree. I 100% agree. That's me. I am not as thick-skinned as Brett, but I deal with it in that way of saying, well, if it bothers me, then I get to control whether it bothers me or not, which is that I will not even see it. And then it doesn't bother me.
And occasionally I'll say something that makes somebody mad on some online forum. And somebody will say something, well, now at least I know what Brett and Alice think about this. And I'm like, you really think Alice has anything to do with this? Like, Alice doesn't even know this discussion's going on.
True.
So anyways, such is life. Such is life.
Wow. Guys, thank you so much for everything. We don't mean to be all so mushy-gushy all the time, but it's just true. We love you guys so much, and thank you for supporting us in all our different endeavors, and we hope you had fun listening to our experience being on this Hulu documentary. Our other shows, if you haven't listened before, are much more legally based, but we'd love to hear what you want to hear about. Let us know at prosecutorspod@gmail.com. You can find us on all the social medias. We are there, and we actually read them. I even read them. I just don't engage on the public forums. I respond in private messages all the time. But until next time, I'm Alice.
And I'm Brett.
And this is the Prosecutor's Legal Briefs. It was Brittany's first day.
Oh,
Can you
no.
believe it that she's old enough to go to school?
No, that's insane. How's that even possible?
I don't know how it's possible, but she did great. You know what's really hard about her, though? She's so articulate, and so she speaks like a baby still, like, you know, tiny little chirpy voice. But I said, how was school today? And usually my boys would be like, right? Like, grunts. And she goes, when you drove away, it made me very sad. And I was like, she's 2, y'all. She is 2.
My
and
kids are like,
to her,
peace.
Just when you thought summer couldn't get any hotter, Pluto TV is turning up the heat with thousands of free movies. Presenting Summer of Cinema. Stream your favorite blockbuster films like Gladiator,
I will have my vengeance.
Good Burger,
This is what I call fast food.
Beverly Hills Cop, The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, and Julie and Julia.
Bon appetit.
All for free on your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.